Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Woodrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. It is Canucks Conversation, and Brad called it in the YouTube live chat. He said, quads? A lot to get to today? Absolutely, Brad. Great comment to start the show. Speaking of our chat, let me tell you about our Super Chat, and more specifically, our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health in addition by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Okay, Harman, let's start with Saturday night's game. The Canucks take down the Toronto Maple Leafs by a final score of 2-1. Very similar style, very similar pre-scout. I think the pre-scout was really, really good in this game, once again, like it was when they took down the Leafs in Toronto by a final score of 3-0.
Yeah, they were really solid defensively. I believe it was only 4 high-danger chances that they surrendered against the Leafs at 5-on-5. And I mean, right away, the way that they came out in the first period, not just defensively, but also offensively, was really inspiring. Because how many times this year have we talked about their lack of creativity in the offensive zone?
Yeah.
And during that first period, I don't think they necessarily sustained it through the final 40 minutes, but in that first period, the level of east-west movement with their passes in the offensive zone opened up a lot of dangerous scoring opportunities that they otherwise haven't been able to create this season. And especially to do that, again, without Quinn Hughes in the lineup, was massive. And of course, the play that stands out is, of course, the HNIC goal where he slashes to the back post. Elias Pettersson hits him with the perfect pass on the back door. But that wasn't the only scoring chance they created in that period from east-west passes in the offensive zone. There was a Hedl look on the right side from Brock Besser from an east-west look. HNIC had a nearly identical chance coming from Filip Hedl later in that first period. Kiefer Sherwood had a redirect chance that originated from Marcus Pettersson. Instead of taking a low percentage point shot, which we've seen so often with this Canucks team, he snapped a pass across, and then they searched for that redirect chance in the slot. Their movement patterns in the offensive zone, the plays they were looking for, was just a lot better than deferring to the point, the simple low to high, spamming inefficient point shots, the stuff that made this hockey team so boring and unimaginative to watch. I thought that was really important. It gave them the early goal, and afterwards they were able to play lockdown defensive hockey.
How much of that comes from the back end upgrades? Because we're going to talk about it. 3-0-1 since those trades. And again, I know whatever narrative you want, I know there's people out there like, see, once JT Miller was gone, everything got better. There's people out there that have the opinion. I think I lean toward this being the case where, wow, what an addition Marcus Pettersson has been to this team to give the Canucks multiple pairings that can now move the puck with efficiency too. How much of this, what you just talked about, how much of it comes down to the back end upgrades?
I think some part of it for sure, especially on breakouts. Again, in the first period, I felt like they were. It was amazing through the first half of the season watching how reliant they were on just rimming pucks around the boards and how predictable it was for other teams to get their defensemen to pinch up the walls and steal those passes away. Whereas now they're consistently able to use the middle. It also helps that in Hedl and O'Connor, they have a couple of forwards up front that can drive possession entries as well. So, yeah, I think the back end is absolutely part of it. I think overall, when you talk about, you referenced the team's successful record there lately since the 2 trades, huge part of it too is they've gotten stellar goaltending. I mean, Thatcher Demko has been brilliant, and Kevin Lankinen coming in relief of Demko after his injury was rock solid, especially during the final couple of minutes when the Leafs, they didn't create a whole lot in the third period, but with the goalie pulled, Lankinen had to make a couple of marvelous stops. They're getting top-notch goaltending, which is essential considering, like, yes, they look more mobile. Yes, Hedl and O'Connor have been effective, but ultimately, this is still a team that, with Quinn Hughes out of lineup, with JT Miller gone, they lack offensive firepower. This isn't going to be a team that is going to consistently put up 4 or 5 goals a game. So they need good goaltending, and that's another part of the ingredient that they've gotten lately.
Thatcher Demko leaves in this game in the first period. You might have read it in the title. We're going to chat with the guy who is the emergency backup in that game. The EBUG is going to join us on today's show. His name is Andrew Henderson. He's a goaltender with the Simon Fraser. What do you call it, Jacob? Red Leafs now?
Red Leafs, yeah. And actually, I
Were
think
they
he's
still the clan when he was there?
no, he was there up until last year. They're the Red
Okay.
Leafs, but yeah, he has stopped playing hockey now. At least stopped for SFU. He graduated, but he was the emergency backup goalie. And he's a guy that I know. I've known him since he was a teenager. Super nice guy, really fun. Should be great to have him on the show.
When did they switch to the Red Leafs? Because wasn't it?
It
Still
was
the
actually
clan
when-
in 1920.
No, it was while I was working there. Actually, I was part of the launch for the new name, which did not go over well. Not because of anything I did.
We ripped it on this show. That's funny. We
Yeah.
were ripping you before you ever got on this show.
I had nothing to do with deciding the name. I just had to help create the promotional material for when we announced it. But yeah, that would have been 2021,
Okay. All right.
21, 22. Yeah.
We're getting sidetracked. We should also bring up the Canucks record without Noah Juleson in the lineup jumps to 31-5. I think it's at now. Noah Juleson not in this lineup. Team's looking great. I said before, I said it while he was still in the lineup, but don't put Noah Juleson back in this lineup. Agreed?
I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody outside of maybe Juleson's immediate family that would say, yes, get him back in the lineup.
Okay. On the back end, let's stick with the back end for a second here. Elias Pettersson, what do you think of his game on Saturday? I thought that was the first game where I was like, okay, some shine wore off, but I still think he played well.
I still think he played well. A couple of shaky moments early, but I had it in my notes still several examples where under pressure on defensive zone retrievals, where there's a heavy forechecker on his back, he's either able to use his strength to out-muscle guys down low and ensure that he comes away with the puck, or it's his quickness to just make the simple D-to-D pass, be decisive, and it's that combination of four-way mobility, the agility, on his turns to where he doesn't lose his quickness and can be first to the puck, but also he has the muscle to where if it's a 50-50 battle against a forechecker, he's typically winning that puck. So I'd noted down at least 3 or 4 examples where under pressure, he's able to make the simple but crucial play to help the Canucks transition the puck north. Now, I think he's logged under 12 minutes because it was a tight game and they wanted to shelter him a little bit. That's totally fine, but he continues to impress me in this sheltered third pair role.
This is the thing that I'm curious about. When it comes to just team philosophy, we know the Canucks really like to have guys get this taste of the NHL, get these 5 or so games in the NHL. When it comes to defensemen in general, you often see them struggle out of the gate at times. You see them struggle with different parts of the game, and I think, as you said at the start there, DPD did struggle with some parts of the game early in that game against the Leafs. Obviously, he showed a lot of really good things as well, which is what you're going to see from young defensemen. The thing I start to wonder, Harm, is where is this team's line of, okay, defenseman is allowed to make mistakes, young defenseman is allowed to make mistakes, and, okay, he's had his NHL taste, back to the A, call him back up, playoffs, call him back up later in the season. I wonder where the team's line is. And I'm not sitting here saying they should do one thing or another. If I were making the decisions, I would keep DPD in this lineup for the rest of the season, I think. I don't think I know which way they're leaning, but it's going to be something that's interesting to watch is how do they handle this player?
What also goes back to something that Manny Malhotra told us about in our interview last week, which is a lot of times American League players, when they get called up, they have so much adrenaline pumping. They're so excited about the opportunity that they come out of the gate flying. But the big question is the sustainability of it, because the NHL is a massive grind, and we can't underestimate just how massive a leap it is for DPD as far as how quickly he's climbed up the leagues, not just in North America here, but in Sweden, and how much has been thrust on his plate so quickly into his career. So the big key is always going to be consistency, right? Because there are a lot of examples of new young player prospect called up, looks exciting in his first 5 or 10 games, but over time you maybe start to see cracks start to appear in their game. I don't think we're at that point with DPD. I still think he looks comfortable. I still think he looks effective. I believe he deserves a spot in the lineup right now. But the big key is going to be when Quinn Hughes comes back, presumably on the other side of this 2 weeks for nations break, defenseman is going to have to come out. And with Hughes, it's another lefty in the mix there. So is it Carson Soucy that they're going to take out of the lineup? And if they do, even if it is DPD stays in the lineup, Soucy comes out, you'd imagine it's a pretty short leash for DPD given Soucy's stature. And I know he hasn't had the best season, but we're talking about a guy who excelled in a second pair matchup role as recently as last season. And for the most part has been a very good NHL defenseman. So I imagine the bigger factor to watch here is going to be when Hughes comes back. I expect the leash to be shortened, and from there, it's going to be on DPD to show the consistency that he can maintain this level.
Okay, we're going to get to Rick Tocchet's comments about Elias Pettersson in that game, but we're going to save that for the other side here because I want to talk to Andrew Henderson, who, as I said at the start of the show, Canucks EBUG, he's going to join us in a matter of seconds. All of our guests are brought to you by Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X. The BZ4X is packed with all the things you want in an SUV, like the room to fit all your family, friends, hockey bags, and whatever else you've got. And the BZ4X is backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 3.29% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Okay, let's bring him in. Andrew Henderson, the EBUG that was in the building on Saturday night. Andrew, thanks so much for doing this. How you doing today?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Excited to talk to you. So walk us through this. Thatcher Demko leaves 10 minutes into the first period. TV timeout. Like, we know you're in the building, but like, walk us through the process. How early do you get to the rink? What are you thinking? Where are you sitting? What happens when you see Thatcher Demko leave the game?
It was actually quite a hectic day because that day, I guess the Invictus Games opening ceremonies were going on at BC Place. Usually I try to get there 45 minutes early at the latest. And due to traffic, I was actually stuck trying to turn left onto Pacific just past the Park Casino there. And I was stuck at a light for roughly like 20, 30 minutes.
Whew.
I was like 3:50 by the time, and like I got a call from Miles, who runs the EBUG program, and he's like, any chance you could just like run to the rink from there? So like basically I got my friend who is driving with me to get in the steer, like grab the wheel for me, grab my gear out of the back of my car, and I pretty much walked right on the streets of Vancouver from like Park all the way to the security gate at Rogers, and I was able to like do that. I felt like that Ottawa EBUG that was like a couple months ago, right? So a bit of a hectic start there. So you walk in through the security gates, you're pretty much led right underneath. You get to drop your bag off, and like believe it's like pretty much near the old Grizzlies dressing room. So kind of near the away team room. You drop your gear off, you kind of say hi to a lot of the staff there. They're super friendly with you. Go upstairs, you eat a meal. Everything felt so rushed that like by the time I actually got in my seats, and you pretty much sit like 20th row lower bowl right behind the home net. So like Demko, you're not too far behind him. And you sit there and you just watch the game. So I got there like 3 minutes after puck drop. Finally just kind of got in, relaxed, and like the noise there was like pretty hectic because I've never been to the game when we're playing the Leafs or when they're in town. So it's a really cool atmosphere to be a part of. So I started getting in almost like a fan mindset where I'm like just so focused on the game. I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome getting to be a part of this. And like I didn't really pay much attention to what was going on with Demko. So I hadn't even started registering like something might be happening. And then, yeah, the TV timeout happens. I see Lankinen stretching on the ice, and I'm starting to think to myself, I'm like, well, there's no reason he should be stretching. Like, why is he on the ice right now? I didn't even realize what was going on. And I see Demko walking down the tunnel. And like, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, oh, like, what's going to happen here? Like, I've never gotten to this point yet. So I'm sitting there, and then I get a text from Miles, and he's like, hey, just a heads up, waiting on word, like, we might need you to get dressed here. And so I get pretty excited at that idea myself. Like, I know some people might get nervous, but for me, I'm always eager at the idea. I'm like, oh, like, what if it actually ends up happening? I'm like, this is like actually the first step it takes. So I get really excited, and I'm like, okay, as much as I want Demko to be healthy because I am a Canucks fan, it's like, oh man, I just hate seeing him having these troubles. It sucks, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this is my only opportunity to get this close. So like I'm getting excited, and then I get the text. He's like, "Hey, meet me at gate 9." And like I basically say, "I'm like, I gotta go right now." And like maybe it wasn't that urgent, but like I felt like I had to get there as soon as possible.
Sure.
Right? So I'm eager. I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible, and yeah, get led downstairs where I left my gear in, and like Miles comes with me. He sets up a laptop, and he's like, "Hey, we're just gonna get like half your gear on just in case, because like if anything happens, it's kind of like you got to go, like you got to get on the ice pretty much." So I was just whatever it took, pretty much, just get my gear on as fast as possible, trying to like stay calm. I'm like getting texts, and like I'm trying to text all my friends like, "Hey, like it's who knows what's gonna happen here?" Cause like I'm like, you got to check this out. So it was all pretty exciting, and like it's hard to describe because it just felt kind of crazy all going on with how I got to the rink. And then like I barely watched any of the game, and next thing you know, I'm suiting up with like you never know what's gonna happen, right?
That's unbelievable. I think the best part about that is, like, I'm just imagining the scenario. It's the Leafs. It's hockey night in Canada. It's Saturday night. It's all the spotlight is on the game. This isn't some midweek game against the San Jose Sharks. In that situation, and I imagine most people would be so nervous, and yet you were excited rather than nervous. Can you just walk me through what was going on in your mind, and why weren't you nervous?
For me, I feel like I got nothing to lose in a sense, right?
I love it.
That's a mentality I have. Like, obviously, I'd hate to go in there, like God forbid, I actually end up in the net and let up like 8 goals on 9 shots. Like, that'd be a bit of a nightmare. But for me, I'm just like, just getting on the ice would be unreal. Like, I played a decent level of hockey where I love that feeling of having the crowd, and I'm like, I haven't felt that feeling in a while. Where I'm like, that'd be such a surreal feeling to get like in front of all those people if it ever happened. But like, I don't know, to me it just seems like such an exciting opportunity. Maybe it's just the personality I have. It's just those moments or things that I'm like, get me in there, please. Like, I'd love to be a part of that. It's just, obviously, I guess I feel bad saying that in the sense that like the only way I'd get in there is for both of our goalies to get something unfortunate happened to them. But it's tough for me to kind of say exactly why I feel that way. It's just, maybe it's just the way I've always been. It's just, I want the spotlight if I'm playing sports, at least, where it's like, come on, please.
Now, Andrew, this is something we're going to ask our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, to look up.
Yeah.
If you went into that game and beat the Leafs, a person in our chat is asking if that would be enough for the organization to completely fold. But I believe, and Jacob's going to look this up, I believe that would make them the only team to lose twice to an EBUG if that happened. I don't think that's ever happened for a team loses twice to an emergency backup goaltender. Was that on your mind at all? The fact that it was the Leafs over there?
It did, actually. Like, it was one of the first thoughts I had. I'm like, this happened. Like, what would they do? I'm like, I can't imagine they'd be like, all right, this time, like, we can't let this happen. Like, I feel like they'd be shooting from center line. I'm like, there's no way we're letting this go again. Like, I can't imagine how bad, especially like a lot of those core players, right? They're still on the Leafs. Like, they'd have, like, that wasn't even that long ago. They're like, we got to light this kid up. Like, just shoot from anywhere, whatever it takes. Because I don't even know how I'd feel if it happened again to the Leafs. Because, cards on the table. I'm not exactly a Leafs fan. So it's like, if there was a team to get in there against, I'm like, oh my God, please let me put them in there. I'd love to put these guys to bed again. But unfortunately, like, it's just, it'd be such a funny, like, what are the odds of that happening twice to the same team within like 6 years? It's crazy.
What was the story behind how you became an EBUG? Because I can't imagine it's like a job posting that you can apply for. And what are the perks of being an EBUG?
So it's actually pretty much, you just get, like, I got a text one morning. I woke up to a text from Miles, and he's like, hey, I'm with the Canucks EBUG program. I was like, you were recommended to me by one of the other EBUGs, because when I was playing for Simon Fraser, my goalie partner, Cale Dolan, he was on the EBUG list before. And like, I had taken a year off hockey, and then I came back. And so I guess they had a couple guys move through the system, move on, get full-time jobs, and moved out of Vancouver. So they're no longer able to do it. So they're looking for more guys to come in. And I guess they just kind of go off like references and just word of mouth, where they'll ask for like current EBUGs, like, hey, who's on the team right now? And like, do you think they'd be interested? And Cale was like, yeah, I'm very sure that they want to be a part of that. So Miles just kind of sends a text and he's like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And I'm like, I don't know how I could say no to that. Like, it's pretty hard to say no. Like, even if you're not intrigued in getting in the net, like, the big perks is you get to park right underneath. Like, you drive right in. You don't have to pay for that. You park right underneath, like pretty much right where like the players' cage is, like for their parking. So you're just right there. So you walk 5 steps and you're into the building. You get a nice free meal up top with like all the media and all that. So like nice warm meal and like free tickets. I don't think like you can really complain about free tickets to go watch like a good hockey team play in your hometown. And like they're nice seats right behind Demko, like I said. So that's pretty awesome. Then I'd say obviously the biggest perk is the opportunity to maybe step in the cage, but that's a very like low percentage chance. But to me, I'm like, I'll just take that if anything.
Hey, you getting ready? Like, I love it. I love that you got to go down. That's so sick. Final thing for me, just your hockey journey as a whole. The thing I always ask goaltenders is, how did you start playing the position? I had an older brother, so that's how I started playing goalie. And that's the one I hear the most is, I had an older brother who wanted to take shots on me. How did you start playing the position?
It's, you know what? I felt like I was pretty young, and I wouldn't say like I was like an exceptional forward or anything. Like, I had decent enough skating. I just wasn't doing money impactful things. And I don't think it's not that I didn't like it. Obviously I loved hockey and I still like playing forward today if I can, but I just remember I got in the cage and I did have a miserable first game. I do remember that much where like I get in the cage, probably let up 10 goals as like a 5-year or 6-year-old. It's like whatever happens, but wasn't exactly a positive experience. But like, I just remember feeling like I want to get back in there. And then I think even just when I was a kid watching goalies play, like I think even like the first goalie I can remember like genuinely like really liking was Cristobal Huet on the Habs. And then I remember I would like be watching Luongo back in the day and like I would see those guys and I'm like, oh my God, like I want to be them. It seems so cool. And I just got so intrigued and fascinated by like the equipment, the way these guys played, just the position itself. It's such a, maybe not when I was younger, but even as I'm older, like something that really kept me in the position was the pressure of it and like how much of an impact you can have on the game. Like, I think it's incredible that like, it's almost, wouldn't say necessarily the most important position, but you can really kill a team if you don't show up. So like, I just love having that pressure, honestly.
Absolutely. You're excited to potentially get into an NHL game. Andrew, I love it. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're probably going to have you back on the show. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Best to you guys.
Awesome. There he is, Andrew Henderson, the man who was the EBUG on Saturday night. That was so much fun. That was really good. That was a great conversation. Our thanks again to Andrew for joining us. Harman, you said it best. Like, try to put yourself in the shoes. And I mean, he played high level hockey, obviously, so it's hard to. But putting yourself in the shoes of like, yeah, I might just suit up for an NHL game. Like, I don't know how I would handle that, honestly. That's insane.
Especially Hockey Night in Canada against the Leafs Saturday night. And sure, yeah, we know the story about David Ayres and the Leafs having troubles on the EBUGs once, but you're still talking about Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, some really high-end offensive players that you'd potentially have to be placing. And also the Canucks are in the middle of a playoff race. Like, these points matter. So I can't even imagine being thrust into that type of position. And honestly, I just loved hearing the play-by-play of like arriving to the, like basically running to the game like that Ottawa EBUG, arriving pretty close to puck drop, just the whole process of where they store the gear, and then the text when Demko went down and getting half ready, and just an awesome story.
Okay. The chat is giving a lot of young John Garrett comparisons. I love it. He did. He had the curly hair. He had the beautiful mustache too. We didn't comment on that, but a lot of people in the chat were bringing it up.
He's such a nice guy. For the listeners, I'll let you know, like I've known him since he was a teenager when he played for the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs U18 team. And I was working for the team at the time. This guy, everybody on the team loved this guy because he's just like fun and goofy and personable, and he came across that way again all these years later now when he came on the show. So awesome guy. And like, I hope when I heard on the broadcast, like, oh, like, crap, that's Andrew, like I know him. I was hoping he'd get in, but also like I understand like it'd have to be pretty catastrophic for the Canucks if it happened. But hey, if one day it does happen, maybe the Canucks have a playoff spot locked up, a couple minor injuries, pull the guys out for precautions. It would be so cool to see him actually make an appearance in the NHL.
And again, first NHL team to lose to 2 EBUGs. Try to do it if the Canucks are playing the Leafs.
It's also interesting because I recently did a story in January looking at some just like interesting unknown CBA rules. If you're an amateur, basically, let's say he had to appear in the game, he would have had to sign an amateur tryout contract, and he wouldn't have been paid like a cent. The only compensation he would have been awarded is keeping the jersey that he wears in the game. Whereas if you're a professional EBUG, meaning you played, in the AHL, ECHL, in some capacity, then you actually get $500 US in addition to keeping your game worn jersey. But that's another interesting thing where, because he's technically an amateur, the team can't pay him. And so even David Ayres, when he suited up for Carolina, he wasn't paid a cent technically.
I did not know that. That's a really good poll. Well, one question I did have was, does Andrew get to park under the rink? And he said he does. And like, that's 500 US basically right there with how much the Canucks charge for parking under the rink. That was a great conversation. That was really fun. And people really liking the John Garrett comparisons. We gotta introduce them to each other. We'll leave that to you, Jacob. Let's get to our poll question, which is about the Four Nations face-off. So let's actually, before that, let's talk about Canucks Leafs still. I had a couple more things on this. Specifically, Elias Pettersson. Yes, he had the great assist. We talked about that, and I think one thing we didn't talk about on that goal was the great defensive read as well to break up the Leafs. Breakout attempt, swing it back to Derek Forbort, get the puck back from Forbort, curl back, see Filip Hronek streaking into the net. Hronek obviously opens the scoring in that game. I really, really liked Pettersson's game after the first few shifts. I thought the first few shifts, and I even wrote this in Instant Reaction, were dreadful. Like, there was double clutching, there was turning over the puck, there was just plays dying as soon as the puck got near him, which is just more of the same of what we saw against San Jose. So I was like, here we go again. Really turned it on, really locked in on that Matthews matchup. Rick Tocchet talked about Elias Pettersson post-game. Let's play that clip, Jacob. Rick Tocchet, after the game, talking about what he saw from Elias Pettersson.
Elias Pettersson matched up against Matthews for most of the night. How do you feel he did in that defensive role to go along with the offense that he brought?
Yeah, I just could tell early on he was into it. Obviously, that making that pass helps him, but just a couple of times, I yelled his name to go out, and he didn't. One time he hesitated. I said, "No, get out there. You got him." And I think that he needs a little bit of a push. You got him tonight, and I think that was a big thing for him. So hopefully he can build on it.
Hopefully he can build on it. That's the thing, is that's what you're hoping. That's what we've been hoping every time we see a glimmer of hope with Elias Pettersson, is let's see if he can do it consistently. Let's see if he can build on it. Anything you want to say about Pettersson? Because he's obviously going to be a part of our Four Nations conversation as well.
Yeah, once he got that assist, I felt he was more confident carrying the puck up the ice, making more plays off the rush. He was more decisive. He hit the outside of the post with a shot off the rush, either late in the first or early in the second. And even just a couple of crafty passes. There was a rush in the second period where he drew, I believe it was Morgan Riley, towards him, and it opened up space in the high slot area. He dropped it back for Forbort, who got a pretty good opportunity. He set Jake DeBrusk up in the third period for another dangerous chance off the rush. And it's that type of creation that we need to see on a consistent every game basis that for most of the season we haven't seen. And I think the assist gave him that confidence to hold on to the puck, to show some more poise, to be a bit more ambitious in what he's attempting to create. And I mean, defensively, he was a monster all night. He was breaking up plays, disrupting passes into the slot. He was a takeaway machine. It was we've known that Pettersson has been pretty consistent defensively, even when he hasn't been producing the points. But even from a defensive standpoint, he really sort of leveled up in that game and was a massive driver for them. So a massive positive storyline for the team heading into the Four Nations break. And again, the key is just can he finally build on this? Because we've seen these glimmers of hope in the past, and it's been stringing these performances together over and over again that has been the challenge for PD.
And Tocchet also talked about the Four Nations break as well, and how, yeah, the team's playing well right now. He said that this team needed a rest. He thinks they needed a bit of a reset. But for Pettersson, Tocchet was talking all about, yeah, I hope he has fun. I hope he goes and plays with his countrymen. I really, really liked what Rick Tocchet had to say about Pettersson heading to Four Nations. And I mean, we're going to talk about Four Nations. Do we have the clip of that, Jacob? I forgot if I told you to get it or not.
Yeah, I've got that.
Play it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Rick Tocchet on Pettersson.
Four Nations. Elias obviously has had a difficult couple of months, and everybody, including him, knows he needs to play better. What do you hope he gets out of this tournament?
I just want him to have fun. Like, I know it's a serious tournament. I mean, everybody wants to win. It's serious. I want him to go represent his country and go have fun with his countrymen. Like, just have fun. Try stuff and, I mean, yeah, everybody wants to win this tournament, but it was it four games. I just want him to go out there and have some fun and come back. Hopefully he's, that tournament, hanging with his buddies and rejuvenates his whole demeanor. And today, I thought he just was, I don't know, he had some fun. And I think he's got to understand that pressure is fun sometimes.
Can you tell us anything?
Pressure is fun sometimes. I think those are really wise words from Tocchet. Tocchet and Pettersson face each other on Wednesday. Like, I'm sorry, people that just aren't excited for this tournament or are like, oh, NHL cash grab, I'm not watching hockey for 2 weeks and protest. Get over yourself, okay? You're saving the world. Phenomenal job that you're not watching the NHL cash grab. I wish I was you. But, man, I am actually getting really excited for this tournament. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I am really excited. And I'll be honest with you. The moment, aside from, like, talking about Pettersson being like, wow, like, Pettersson's going to get to play with some really talented players, and we'll get to that in a second here. I got really excited for that tournament this morning. Really excited because, A, Sidney Crosby's there, but B, Sidney Crosby confirming that he will be good to go for Wednesday. There was some wonder if he was going to maybe hold out for the second game or if he was only going to play in the championship game. You didn't know how much he'd be able to play as he nurses the wrist injury that he's dealing with. But Sidney Crosby confirming he's good to go on Wednesday. And I'll be honest, Harm, the thing that got me most excited for this tournament was Canada's line rushes. Let's get to that in a second. Before that, let's talk about our poll question, which is Four Nations related. And also tomorrow, we're going to do a Four Nations kind of primer where we talk about the whole tournament and really dive in on it all. Frank Saravalli is going to join us on this show. Don't think we're going to ask him about Marcus Pettersson, but we'll see how that goes. Frank Saravalli joins us tomorrow. We're going to talk Four Nations as well tomorrow, but let's get to our poll question. Wait, do we have a show tomorrow? Jacob just said, do we have a show?
We weren't planning on having a show tomorrow, but
I thought we were doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
It was going to be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but we can do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. That works too.
You fellas good with... Oh, no, it's my birthday tomorrow. That's why I wanted to do Wednesday.
Yeah.
I can do... No, let's do tomorrow. Let's just do tomorrow. I'll do
birthday show for quads.
Harm, you get to do tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right, folks. Canucks Convo goes live tomorrow at 2 p.m. I don't mind doing it on my birthday. I don't care. Okay. Where was I? What was I talking about? Okay, poll question.
Poll question. You got an ad read to do.
Okay. Poll question. Which is brought to you by HSBC Vancouver Sevens, where high caliber rugby and the ultimate party weekend collide. SVNS is Western Canada's largest sporting event, and this year is the 10th anniversary of the event. You can catch teams from Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, Fiji, France, Great Britain, many more countries at BC Place from February 21st to 23rd. It is going to be the place to be. And folks, if you haven't been yet, if you have been, obviously you're going back. But if you haven't been yet, this event truly is just one of a kind. It's so much fun. It's a mix of like a party and of just watching a really, really fun sport. I don't know if everybody's watched rugby. Rugby is really entertaining to watch, and it's also not that hard to understand. I know people in North America don't watch it a ton usually, so it's confusing, but once you learn like the very basics of rugby, it's a super fun sport to watch. So make sure you head on out. February 21st, 23rd, BC Place is the place to be. Grab your friends in your best costume and come on down for the best party in town. Single day tickets are on sale now. Friday tickets start from just $50. And you might ask about the costumes. That's kind of a tradition, is everybody wears different costumes. You don't have to, but people do wear different costumes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Jesse Strauss in the chat, who said Quads is going to go get his learner's permit tomorrow. Kusamulski in the chat wished me a happy 19th birthday. I'm getting up there. I'm getting up there now. Seriously, I appreciate the birthday wishes, day early, but I'm getting up there. Turning 25 tomorrow.
The sad part was I was going to make a joke that you're getting close to 20, but then I was like, I think if I say that, a lot of people might actually think you're turning 19.
You know what I got told yesterday? I got told yesterday, you have a young face, but it's starting to get evident that you're older than 20. I took offense to that. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm starting to not get ID'd and stuff. Like, it's crazy.
What, you wanted to look 17 for the rest of your life?
I don't
is
know.
A positive development.
Sure, but I don't mind. Like, people, I mean, when I was breaking into the industry and I was getting my start in my career and I was 19 and people were like, this guy looks 15. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm 19. But now, like, I don't get that much anymore. I kind of miss the days when people thought I was really, really young. Like, now I get, like, I'm not listening to a 20-year-old, and it's like, okay, fine, you think I look 20, no problem. But, like, I don't get the, you look 16, you look 18, you know? And I'm losing the fountain of youth, is what I'm telling you.
I think it's a better look, man. I don't think you want to look like you're a teenager for... Like, come on, you're halfway through your 20s. At some point, you need to look like you're in your 20s.
Dude, I think about the way we talk about players, right? It's like, oh, that guy's on the wrong side of 30. Like, what's going to happen in 5 years? I've been doing this show for 5 years. What's going to happen in 5 years when I'm turning 30? And I'm like, you know, talking about, oh, this player's washed because he's over 30. What happens to me?
That's what I'm saying. Honestly, I feel like my understanding of aging curves with NHL players and being like, oh, players peak in their mid-20s. When I hit like 31 or 32, which, you know, still quite a ways away. I'm same age as you, 24. But when I hit 30, 31, 32, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm really past my prime now, even though in the grand scheme of things, that's still pretty young.
All right. People are giving me aging advice on how to not age. It's okay. I'll let it happen. I'm not, you know, obsessed where I'm going to, like, you know, as this person says, moisturize. No, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the poll. Poll question. It's a Four Nations face-off. Jacob, pull it up. Can't remember what I wrote. Oh yeah, it was simple. It was who will win the Four Nations face-off? Canada, Sweden, Finland, USA. Finland is absolutely hammered by injuries. Obviously, they lose Miro Heiskanen. Looks like Mikko Rantanen's going to be able to play in their first game against the US on Thursday. But Finland, and I don't blame anybody, coming in with 1% of the vote. They might win a game or two, which could make it interesting because, again, folks, like, let's not forget, there's no semi-final here. It's you play every team, and whoever the two teams that have the best record, they go on to play in the championship game. So it's not a super long tournament. There's not a ton of games, but you're looking at a team like Finland and really to win the thing, like, they might be able to surprise everybody and get to the final, but to, like, go on and win it, I think is going to be a really, really tall task. But I don't think these results, which, again, 1% for Finland, 11.5% for Sweden, 52.4% for Canada, and 35% for the US, I don't think these are indicative of, like, okay, well, obviously it's going to be a Canada-USA final. I think those are probably the two best teams heading into it, and personally, I am rooting for Team Canada. Like, I'd like to see Team Sweden have some success, but I am rooting for Team Canada in this. I'll be honest about that. And I was just gushing over Sidney Crosby, and I'll continue to gush in anyone else in a second here. But I think Canada has to be the favorite in this tournament.
Do they? I don't think they have to.
Okay.
Not with the goaltending differential.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Harm. Jordan Binnington, and I'm not a big Jordan Binnington guy, but you talk to, and again, I've talked to Woodley about this, other people in goaltending circles as well. Jordan Binnington plays in St. Louis, and he gets a bad rap for a number of reasons. But, like, Jordan Binnington is, in my opinion, better than people think. I think he's going to be one of the top goaltenders in this tournament.
He's not bad, but you're talking about a guy who has an .896 save percentage this year. And I know the Blues aren't a defensive powerhouse, but compare that to Connor Hellebuck on the other end. Now, of course, like, it's such a short tournament that wonky things can happen, and goaltending is so volatile. You could absolutely have a scenario where Binnington catches fire, or Saros catches fire, and that's the path where Finland unexpectedly surprises people. Plus, we have seen Hellebuck in the playoffs sort of implode and not play to the Vezina caliber level that he's shown. But the difference on paper in net between the US and
It is real.
Canada
It
is
is real.
massive. Now, what shifts things slightly may be Quinn Hughes not being available, because I think he's arguably their best skater. He's having a better year than Matthews, anybody they have up front or on the back end. The US still has a really deep blue line. The Quinn Hughes injury shifts things slightly, but look, I think it's a coin flip, honestly. Like it's really tough. If Hughes was, put it this way, if Hughes was healthy, I'd be saying I would give the edge on paper to the Americans for sure. With him out of the lineup, I'd say it's closer to like a 50-50, but I would push back against the idea that Canada has to be viewed as the favorites.
I will also bring up Logan Thompson's name. Like, I think ultimately Logan Thompson starts games. It's just such a short tournament, so I don't know how they're going to handle it. Maybe each guy gets a game.
Logan Thompson's not on the team.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot.
Aiden Hill and Montembeau are the other two goalies.
Okay. Let me get it back on track.
Insane.
Yes, let me get it back on track, because I had Logan Thompson in my notes. But that was more me. I was supposed to complain about Logan Thompson not being on the team. My bad. Okay. He's going to be there for the Olympics. You think they'll right that wrong by the time the Olympics come around next year? But in net, they basically only have Binnington and Aiden Hill. Like, no offense, Jacob, Sam Montembeau, I don't think is going to. Maybe he'll start a game because, like I said, you've got to play.
Offense taken.
You've got to play games, and then you kind of decide who's going to be the best guy. But we could see Aiden Hill. We could see Aiden Hill over Binnington. I just can't believe it's not Logan Thompson. Like, Logan Thompson is better than all three of these guys by such a wide margin. Did we ever get a reason for that? Did anybody ever ask what the reasoning was?
I wonder if part of it has to do with his time in Vegas. I don't think there's been speculation that he didn't build the best reputation with the coaching staff there, which includes, I believe, DeBoer and Cassidy, both of whom coached Vegas. I think that probably went into that, which honestly, like, you're still talking about a guy who is going to finish as a Vezina finalist behind Hellebuck.
Yeah, good. More politics in Hockey Canada. That's what we need, right? That's the other aspect of all this. And let's get to anyone else. Because we're doing our Four Nations preview tomorrow, but I have some thoughts that I want to just spew. So I'm going to do that. Before anyone else, I want to remind everybody, I've said this a few times, but Daily Face-Off Live is live on location, bringing you exclusive coverage straight from the tournament. Make sure you're following Tyler Remchuk, Frank Saravelli as well. From February 10th to 20th. 10th is today, folks. We've got live shows every weekday breaking down the biggest stories, key matchups, and all the action as it unfolds. Subscribe to the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel and follow on all social platforms to stay locked in. And of course, you should be reading Daily Face-Off every day, but as well, Daily Face-Off has the line combos for each nation. And we're going to dive into each nation tomorrow, but right now, as we get to anyone else, I just want to focus on Canada because I have a lot of takes about Canada. So let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away, the home of our electric watch parties. Greta's the spot to be, and we hope to see you there for all of our watch parties all season long. One of those is coming up, folks. One of them is coming up. It is hosted by Scaris and Price, presented by Fountain Tire, and it's in support of the YVR Social Run Club. It is going to be on Saturday, February 15th, as Canada takes on USA. Doors open at 4 p.m. Puck drop is at 5 p.m. Tickets are just $10, and they're available at nationgear.ca. Come play some games, get some food, get some drinks, have a good time. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's always fun when we get together for a watch party. So Canada versus USA, Saturday, February 15th. Do not miss it. Greta Bar YVR, even if we're not there, is still the spot to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. K-Harm. Anyone else? These line rushes. Sidney Crosby skates with Mark Stone and Nathan McKinnon. Dear Sidney. And the top line, Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, Sam Reinhart. Like, that top six is just unfair. Like, that is such a dominant top six. And we haven't even gotten into the bottom six, where Braden Point and Anthony Cirelli are your two centers. Seth Jarvis with Brad Marchand and Point. Hagel and Bennett with Cirelli. Like, that fourth line could just shut down any top line in the NHL in their sleep.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a stacked forward group, especially down the middle. I mean, I know McKinnon's on the wing, but the options you have with McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Point, and Cirelli, who's broken out offensively in addition to driving Selke caliber defensive results, is such a luxury to have right now. Although, like, the thing is, I look at this top six on paper and it's stacked. The Americans' top six on paper is still really stacked, and their bottom six is pretty deep too. Like Canada has the better forward group because Americans don't have a McDavid or a McKinnon.
Yeah.
But man, it's close. I'm just also so excited to see this group of players together, right? To see McKinnon and Crosby together. To see, like, I'm so excited to see what the first unit power play looks like. And I think the biggest key for me when I look at these lines is what version of Sidney Crosby do you get? Is he going to be at 100%? Is he going to be inhibited a little bit? That's going to be something to watch for.
Okay, we saw PP1 at practice today. Chris Johnson reported this. Cale Makar at the point, obviously. You got Sam Reinhart and Sidney Crosby, who I think were rotating in and out of the bumper. Then you've got Nate McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and as I said, you've got Reinhart and Crosby rotating between net front and bumper. Yeah, you said it, Harm. I'm excited to see PP1. I'm so excited to see these guys cook. Like, honestly, I'm not, not trying to fanboy too much, but I am a noted Sidney Crosby fan. I'm a huge Sidney Crosby fan. And seeing him play with this group of players, and that's the thing is, yeah, call it a gimmick, call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, this is so the players can tune up for the Olympics. Like, this wasn't just Gary Bettman sitting and saying, oh, here's a way for me to make money. This was between the NHL and the NHLPA. Like, the players wanted this chance to get this tune up together because they're going to the Olympics next year, and you can't call that a gimmick. Like, that is going to be the players, they've wanted to go to the Olympics for a long time. It's finally happening. And again, like, if I had to ask you, okay, if I had to ask you, the last time that NHL players were at the Olympic, what did the top line look like? Do you think you could answer confidently?
Was it Crosby, Marchand, and...
You're thinking World Cup of Hockey. I don't think Marchand was on the top line.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Chris Kunitz was.
Yeah, I'm
you're
pretty
saying-
sure it was Chris Kunitz.
My bad.
Olympics.
Right. Okay, I was thinking World Cup of Hockey there.
Jacob, do you know the answer? I'm trying to find it.
I'm pretty sure it was Crosby, and they stapled Kunitz to him the whole tournament, and Kunitz did nothing until the gold medal game. But
it was Sochi, right? Sochi.
It was Sochi. I don't remember who was on that line with them. All I remember was like the defense and Carey Price being so dominant that it didn't really matter because like they gave up one goal in the medal round in 3 games. So I don't even think about the forward group.
So when they won gold, as we look back to 2014, I was 14 years old at the time. This is over 10 years ago is basically what I'm trying to say. The quick game recap I saw was Carey Price stopped all 24 shots he faced. Chris Kunitz scored his first goal of the tournament. So did Jonathan Toews, and so did Sidney Crosby. Like, these are the names we're talking about. And you go up and down the list. Here's something I'll do. Here's something I can really easily do, okay? I'm going to go up and down the box score and try to name who is still on this team that was on the last actual Team Canada team. Because here's the thing, what I was trying to illustrate is that a lot of these guys have never played together, period, but definitely never played together at an international thing like this, or definitely not played together at the Olympics. Okay, let's see. Matt Duchene, Patrick Sharp, Patrick Marleau, Ryan Getzlaf, John Tavares, Jamie Benn.
Doughty will be on there.
Doughty's on there because Doughty was the late addition. Doughty's there, but Shea Weber and Jay Bouwmeester are not on this edition of the team. Alex Pietrangelo is going to be there next year. He was there as well, so we should mention Pietrangelo. But yeah, like Mark-Edward Vlasic and PK Subban aren't going to be there. I don't think Roberto Luongo and Mike Smith are going to suit up. Neither is Carey Price. So my point being, going to be a different look. And Jacob in our private chat says, I know the other winger, you'll never get it. Is it not Rick Nash?
No, so Rick Nash was on the third line with Toews and Patrick Sharp.
Okay.
So the second line was Tavares and then Getzlaf and Perry. They kept the 2 Anaheim Ducks together. And they kept the 2 Penguins together and Kunitz and Crosby. And the other winger, at least going into the tournament, this is on the Sportsnet website ahead of their first game, the other winger was Jeff Carter.
Oh, you're right. I would have never got that. I would have never got that.
And then fourth line was Ben Bergeron Marleau. Pretty good fourth line. The extra forwards were Matt Duchene and Martin St. Louis.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
D pairs, you had Keith and Shea Weber. It's a pretty solid top pair. Bouwmeester with Pietrangelo and a young and still effective Mark-Edward Vlasic playing with Drew Doughty. The extras were Hamkus and Subban.
Yeah. And you know what? Fair enough. Like, people in the chat are saying, like, this isn't a true tune-up because there's players like Draisaitl, Barkov, Michkov, Ovechkin, Shesterkin. We'll see if Russia's allowed in the Olympics next year. But, like, these players aren't being given a chance to tune up for the Olympics next year. So, hey, I think that's fair, and it's not quite best on best because, as we've talked about, Leon Draisaitl's probably going to win the Hart this year, and he's not involved in this tournament. But that being said, I am still really excited about it. And look, like, I am... As a Canadian, I'm excited to see how Canada fares here, especially after, you know, those damn teenagers embarrassed us like a month or two ago.
I don't think this tournament's going to carry much bragging rights.
No,
similar
of course
to kind of like the World Cup of Hockey. Like, who cares that Canada won the World Cup of Hockey?
Okay, I was just about to ask who won it. I don't remember.
It was Canada.
Okay.
At least if my memory serves correctly.
It wasn't Team North America.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't them. But I am excited for the tournament because it's just an opportunity from the player's perspective. It's an audition. You're playing for Olympic spots, and that in and of itself is going to feel a lot of intensity, a lot of competitiveness. You're not going to have guys waltzing into this tournament taking it for granted or not putting 110% in, because if you have a poor tournament in this type of environment, then what is management going to think when it comes time to building the Olympic team?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this, and we're going to preview the whole tournament tomorrow, and we're going to talk about each team pretty in depth tomorrow, so we'll save it. I will say this, when I brought up Finland, I can totally see a world where Finland just goes on a heater where they just play a low event, low scoring, and they play as a team, and they at least get themselves a spot in the final. Like, legitimately, you have two good games. Like, you could end up in the final. You have two really good games. You could end up in the final. So,
yeah, especially with Barkov and Aho down the middle. Rope Hintz too. You got really elite sort of two-way centers. Saros and Net. Obviously, their decor is a bit of a train wreck.
Yep.
Without Heiskanen, that I think is still something that is going to hinder them, and that's why I don't believe that they are likely to have this type of Cinderella run. But it's such a short tournament that you can't rule it out.
Yeah. Sniper in the chat said nobody's talking about how Canucks PA announcer Al Murdoch is going to be there, which is great. Al Murdoch is we've had Al on the show and he talked about this, but the opportunity came up for Al to be the NHL's for their events like the Winter Classic and everything, to be their PA voice, and we can't think of a better one. So shout out to Al Murdoch, whose voice we're going to hear throughout this tournament. Action kicks off on Wednesday. Like I said, we're going to do our preview tomorrow. Frank Saravalli is going to join us. And then what did we say? Thursday? Thursday is our next show?
Yeah, so we have a show on Thursday. We'll have an interview actually with one of the Canada Rugby Sevens players.
Yes. Yeah.
And she played hockey her whole life, and then she switched to rugby at like age 18, and by age 21 she was an Olympic medalist. So looking forward to having Chrissy on the show on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. You had something for us, Jacob.
Yeah, so the Canucks posted some photos of Rick Tocchet on the ice for the first Canadian practice. Clearly, they didn't have enough Team Canada gloves because he's wearing Montreal Canadiens gloves. And obviously, with them being in Montreal, he probably didn't bring his Canucks ones. They didn't have Team Canada ones, so he just went in. I don't know, maybe those are St. Louis. I don't think St. Louis would fit Rick Tocchet, but I'm sure somebody had some extra Habs gloves lying around for Rick to use.
Okay. The big thing here for me, hat. Rick Tocchet never practices with a hat on. In fact, like, he's talked about this as well. He's not a hat guy. He's bald. You might have heard or known
really?
that. What I'm saying is, like, Mike Yeo, a lot of bald coaches, Bruce Boudreau, they were hat guys. But Rick Tocchet notoriously is not a hat guy. Doesn't wear hats when he's on the ice. And, you know, when you sweat and you're bald, or so I'm told, it is really hard to keep all that sweat off, but he just wipes it with his hand in his glove. He just wipes the sweat away.
Thanks for that riveting analysis.
Breaking news, as Raj
I can't believe his mullet is gone.
Well, I'm saying he's wearing a hat. Okay, whatever. I didn't know nobody cared. I found it interesting. Big development. He's not wearing a hat, or he is wearing a hat at practice. We'll see. Those Canada hats. That's the other thing. We got asked which logo you like the best, which team's merch you like the best.
We did have an AE asking about the jerseys. I put my thoughts into the comments, but
what are your guys' favorites? Because I think for me, it's Team Sweden just remains undefeated. Sweden's the one that just never changes it.
In every international hockey tournament.
Exactly. And it almost reminds me of like if you think of like great NHL jerseys, Montreal Canadiens come to mind. They've never really changed their jersey, right? You think of great baseball jerseys, New York Yankees. They don't really change their jersey all that much. Although, do you think it's a little boring that they don't? But anyways, that's aside from the point. We're not getting into baseball talk. Although pitchers and catchers report, spring training starts this week. I'm very excited. But I'll save it.
And goodbye to half of our viewers.
Yeah. No. I'm not going to get into it. But favorite jersey? I think Sweden. Sweden just remains undefeated for me.
Yeah, we talked about this, and Sweden, I think, definitely number one.
I do like Canada's. As well. I do like them. I know they're getting a lot of hate. I like Canada's. They got an old school look to them. Again,
I think they're all right.
Yeah, I'll save it for when we get into
my favorites were
games.
the 2010 Olympic ones.
Yeah, those are so good.
Hard to beat those.
Yeah, those are so good. And not only that, I wonder also the psychology behind the memories that we have with those jerseys, right? Like Roberto Luongo coming in and shutting the door. Obviously, the golden goal from Sidney Crosby, greatest player to ever live. Yeah, honestly, it's hard to beat those. It is hard to beat those. Those are so good. Speaking of timeless, you could just stick with those and no one would complain. Those are awesome jerseys.
But then how are you going to get New Jersey sales squads?
I guess that's true. All right. Okay. I like this. Conversation say, have some pride. Canada is the best because we both picked Sweden as our favorite jersey. But I do, like, in all seriousness, like, let's just talk from a pure design perspective. The Sweden ones are probably the nicest. Although I am rooting for Canada, absolutely. I'm, like, feeling pretty patriotic these days, Harm. I'll tell you that much. Rooting for Canada. Rooting for Sidney Crosby. Dear Sidney, please come to Vancouver. Okay, anything else you want to get to?
Nope.
Can you bet on the Four Nations face-off?
Yes, you can.
All right, where can I find this?
I'm sure on Bet365.
Well, no, I'm on Bet365. Thank you, Jacob. Obviously, hang on.
If you go to the hockey tab, there's a big
it.
section for Four Nations face-off right there.
Can I bet on whether Rick Tocchet will keep wearing that hat for all the practices in that tournament?
I don't think we have that one available at Bet365. What is this? Is this to lead them in scoring? You can pick each team's scoring leader. Is that what I'm looking at?
It looks like that, yeah. There's also every single game is already available, obviously with the exception of the final, so you can place a bet on any of the games.
Can I like bet who's going to win the whole thing?
Yes, I believe that's in there as well.
There's a lot of
to win
here.
outright. So currently, Canada's now the favorite. So the U.S. were the favorite for a while. I imagine Quinn Hughes probably played into those lines changing slightly.
Okay, here we go.
If you want Finland, they're plus 850, by the way.
Ooh.
Don't do it.
It's a good value bet. Potentially.
Yeah, Juuso Välimäki and the boys on the back end.
Euro Vakahainen, the guy who was traded for Jacob Trouba that we didn't know who he was. Okay, let's take it because we're feeling patriotic today, as I said. We're going to visit Bet365, and we're taking Canada plus 140 to win the whole tournament. USA is plus 150, very, very close behind, but Canada's slight favorites. We're taking them plus 140 to win this tournament. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, as I said, Frank Saravelli, Talia Remchuk, they are there live on location at the Four Nations face-off. So we're going to be joined by Frank. Tomorrow we're going to have a good time chatting with him. A birthday edition of Canucks Conversation. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to get to it tomorrow. We will close it out there for my co-host Harman Downer, our technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Wargelli. Thanks so much for the interest of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.